All right, let's speak now to Jacqueline Charles, who is in Miami, and she is a Pulitzer-nominated journalist, and she writes for the Miami Herald. And she's been on this story for quite some time, so she'll provide insight into what the situation is currently. We're also joined by Diego and Darin, and he is a Haiti analyst for the crisis group. Diego, if I have it right, you're in Haiti as we speak. Are you in Port-au-Prince?
Yes, I am.
Perhaps you can tell us what the situation there is.
Well, the situation is extremely dire. Many people are counting days, weeks to see the capital maybe fall completely into full control of the gangs. There are just a few neighborhoods that are beyond gangs' reach today. The UN estimates that the gangs control 85% of the Port-au-Prince metropolitan area, and they have been advancing for a year since rival gangs started collaborating with each other to put the state in its knees, to mount simultaneous attacks and have multiple battle fronts so as to overstretch the capacity of the security forces. And yes, the people are extremely afraid. Barricades, doors, metallic doors that have been installed over the past year and a half in all the access routes to these neighborhoods. They close at night, they open in the morning, and there are armed civilians that are guarding these neighborhoods. And people are extremely desperate, and there has been social movements, manifestations, and people taking to the streets for the past 2 weeks, marching toward key government buildings where the Prime Minister and the President's work, asking desperately for security and for something to be done quickly, as people fear that there's an imminent fall of the capital to the total control of gangs in the capital.
Mm-hmm. Jacqueline, I'm looking at a headline published by the Miami Herald. This was on March the 24th, and it reads, Haiti's volatile capital is in a free fall. Here's what its collapse could look like. Speaking to the people of Haiti and just hearing what Diego has stated, is what he's saying reflected by those you've spoken to in Haiti?
Oh, I mean, he is right. And people are just afraid and feeling very helpless. And, when I wrote that piece just a week ago, it did not include Mirbalais, which is a town outside of Port-au-Prince. So what we're seeing today, as we're speaking to you right now, is that the gangs have also expanded to the center of the country, where they're trying to take control of a border town. And in Mirbalais, you have a $10 million hospital, state-of-the-art, that was built after the earthquake, 350 beds, and it's basically been emptied out. That town is anywhere from 50% to 80% in the gang's control right now. And let me just say this, the UN was quoting 85% of Port-au-Prince, but that was before the recent activities we've seen, where 60,000 people were forced out of their homes in the capital in just a month. So when you talk to Haitians, they're telling you that up to 90% of the capital is now under gang control, and they have completely circled the capital.
All right. So, Diego, where exactly then is this multinational security support mission? Where are the Haiti police? Where is the Haitian military?
Well, the multinational security force started to being deployed almost a year ago, in June last year, but they have not enough officers to make a difference here. Until December, they were just around 400 officers, mostly Kenyans, and the idea was to have 2,500 officers. The assessment for what was needed to help the Haitian police to regain the upper hand was done a couple of years ago. And what is needed right now is not only 2,500 officers, it's more than that, much more than that, because the police is losing ground constantly. there is not, the mission has been doing what they can with the means that they have. Now there has been some reinforcements that have been arriving in previous months. There are about 1,000 officers currently, and they have opened 3 forward operating bases here in the capital, in the police academy, and between 2 or 3 gang strongholds in downtown, well, near downtown Port-au-Prince, and another in the Artibonite department to the north of the capital, where there is also a great presence of gangs. But the mission has been for now like a quick reaction force. They haven't been able to pass from the deployment phase to the second phase of the mission, that is the stage of decisive operations against gangs. For now, they are only helping the Haitian police to counter gang attacks, but as the gangs are attacking in multiple fronts, they are not able with what they have, with the resources, with the amount of officers and the equipment that they have to fend off all these attacks.
I'll ask at that point, and in terms of the manpower to fend off these attacks from the gangs. I was reading from the Miami Herald, among other publications, about the president of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council talking about enlisting the, let me just find it here, the Brigade for Security of Protected Areas. Only a year ago, there was this headline that Haiti cracked down on heavily armed environmental agents after clashes with police. And this brigade are those environmental agents.
Well, yes. I mean, what you saw this week is that the president of the Transitional Council says that they're going to enlist members of this brigade. And this brigade has been referred to by the UN as a paramilitary group. There are numerous UN reports which have spoken about the brigade, that we really don't know the numbers of officers. They have guns. Where did these guns come from? Under Haiti's constitution, you know, the only armed forces are, you know, the small army as well as, you know, as the police. Members of this brigade have been implicated in not just trying to topple a government, but human rights abuses, other criminal activities. The reality is that the Haitian authorities, they don't know who makes up this brigade, where they are, and, you know, you have to ask yourself, and, you know, we understand that there's a level of desperation on their part because they're trying to grow numbers, but, you know, what we are also entering into is this whole vigilantism. You know, is today's brigade tomorrow's gang? I mean, that is the fear that you have, is that you're going to have a situation of anarchy where you're just sort of this free fall, and those who are in charge just aren't in control of anything.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Diego? What are your thoughts on this development?
Well, this is like an emergency measure, and actually the government announced that on the day that of the anniversary of the signing of the political accord that outlined the missions and the general structure of the new government that was established last year. So they needed to show, and authorities need to show, that they are doing something, and people have been asking for the government to increasingly use, for example, the army that just has a few hundred officers, and this brigade of surveillance of protected areas, and use it as an asset in collaboration with the army, with the police. Actually, this brigade, members of this brigade, have been joining operations in Kenskov, which is in the hills uptown, and they have been joining. They have been collaborating with the mission, with the foreign mission, with the police, and with the army. But as Jacqueline was saying, we don't have a clear idea of the numbers. People talk about thousands of members of these brigades, but they have been for some time beyond the control of the authorities. Now, the government might try to do a great effort to kind of restore the control that they should have over this brigade, but it will be difficult.
Jacqueline, what's coming out of Washington? We've had a change of administration. President Biden's administration was the catalyst for this multinational security support mission. Now that we have a president who pursues an America First policy, what are you hearing out of Washington where the Haiti security situation is concerned?
Well, we know that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, traveled to the Caribbean region last week. He went to Jamaica, where he met with the head of Haiti's Transitional Council, Fritz Alphonse Jean. He also met with the head of CARICOM, the chairwoman, Mia Motley, who's also the Prime Minister of Barbados. And he also met with the Jamaica's Prime Minister, as well as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We're not getting much. We know that the Biden administration on their way out the door, that they extended contracts until September. We know that they set aside an additional $120 million, that planes were continuing to come and to bring assets for the MSS. But, there's a lot of questions in terms of, while we hear the Secretary of State talk about the support, acknowledging that what you have on the ground is not large enough. He's had multiple calls, with President Ruto. But what we have not heard is the money, whether or not the U.S. is going to continue with this, whether the U.S. is going to support a proposal that the UN Secretary General Guterres has put forth, where he is saying, let's keep the status quo, but the UN will take up some of the funding paid for salaries, but we're going to still ask for voluntary contributions, or whether or not they're going to pursue what the Biden administration was pushing, which was for the transformation of this force to become a peacekeeping mission. But in the midst of all of this, Haitians are feeling like, this is genocide that's happening. Nobody is thinking about us. And are they just going to allow us to just perish because nothing's happening?
And Diego, the enlisting of this brigade for protected areas, what does that say? By the Transitional Presidential Council, what does that say of the MSS mission currently in Haiti?
Well, the mission's mandate is to help exclusively the Haitian police in planning and conducting operations. So the mission, in theory, should not collaborate on the ground in their operations with the Haitian army, with this brigade, or with vigilante brigades that are working to defend neighborhoods that are civilians that have armed themselves. So the mission is only entitled to cooperate with the Haitian police. But of course, in practice, maybe in some of these operations that are going to involve different security forces, including the army, the police, and the brigade, they are going to have to work in practice in these kinds of operations.
But the enlisting of this brigade, does that mean the MSS mission has been ineffective?
Well, the mission they don't have the means to show if they can be effective or not. They don't have the sufficient equipment. They don't have sufficient officers, and we are very far from having what was planned almost a year and a half ago. So yes, they haven't made a difference, and what they have been doing, as I was saying, is to react and help the Haitian police to contain some of these movements of the gangs that are trying to advance in the capital and in other parts of the country. And what they are doing, the result is that they have slowed down the advance of the gangs for now.
Jacqueline,
I think that's an important point. Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Now, I think that's an important point to make, is that, what would it be if you did not have this mission there? We know all of the challenges, and I think that what people don't understand is that the mission cannot move without the Haitian National Police. The Haitian National Police is in the lead, and they are limited by the number of equipment. I was shocked to hear from a source yesterday that you can only have a couple hundred of officers deployed at once, even while the gangs are operating on multiple fronts. fronts because there just are not enough equipment, to address it. But if this mission was not there, where would we be? Would we be at 100% control?
That's a good question. And Jacqueline, I know you talked about the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, and he rather advised the UN Security Council against transitioning this mission to a peacekeeping force, saying ideally they would provide logistic and operational support, while noting what you've raised, the issue of equipment and intelligence, a lack, or rather there seems to be a problem where intelligence communication is concerned, or maybe gathering is concerned. But is it significant to you that France is now chairing the UN Security Council?
Well, France said that Haiti is going to be a priority for it during the month. We will see, what that looks like. I mean, on the U.S. side, they've made a big deal about the fact that France has not provided more financial assistance to this mission. We do know that France has been a vocal voice on Haiti's behalf at the UN. But look, the reality is that everyone needs to have all hands on deck, and all of these countries need to ask themselves, are they prepared to have a country in the Western Hemisphere where gangs are running the show and where people, don't know if they're going to wake up tomorrow? At the same time this is happening, the Trump administration is talking about ending temporary legal protections for 500,000 Haitians currently living in the United States. And the idea would be that you would deport them back to Haiti. So where do you send people today? The gangs are advancing north. So today they're in Port-au-Prince and they're in Mirebalais in the center of the country. Mirebalais and the center of the country is just one regional department from the north, where people are still able to go out at night and still go to the beach and and enjoy what you would call some sense of normalcy. And so what you're seeing in Haiti has this serious implications of spilling over not just to the Dominican Republic but to other countries in the Caribbean region, because more and more we are seeing contacts between others and these elements on the ground in Haiti. So whether it's France, whether it's Russia or it's China, I think at this point the UN Security Council needs to really say, okay, where are we now? What is needed? Because up until now, it seems that the decisions that were made around, Haiti was not necessarily based on demand, but supply. What is available and what can we get? And this is far advanced than where we were a year or 2 years ago when we were talking about deploying assistance.
All right, have the last word, Diego. There had been a pledge that elections would be held in November of this year, given the current situation. Is that feasible?
It is not. At a moment where we are speaking about the possible imminent fall of the capital, it shouldn't be, the theme of discussion shouldn't be holding elections, of course. And if elections are held under these conditions, gangs could penetrate the Haitian administration to an unprecedented level, because they would be they could be used by political parties to help them in political campaigns and to win the elections in some of the areas. And in a lot of the areas that they control, the government should be focusing on establishing a national security strategy and really dealing with security. That is what Haitians are calling for desperately for years.
All right, thank you very much. Jacqueline Charles, a journalist with the Miami Herald, a Pulitzer Prize nominated one at that. And we also have had on this, shall I call it a call? Because it's a Zoom call. We have Diego Darin, Haiti Analyst Crisis Group.